I'm Hugh Gent. I'm the president of Dogs Australia. I, with my wife, have been breeding Labradors for nearly 50 years. Dogs Australia All Breeds Judge. I've judged around the world in most countries in Asia. You know, everybody who wants to sell a puppy describes himself as a registered breeder. We're going to talk about Dogs Australia registered breeders. Dogs Australia registered breeder is one who belongs to one of our 8 state and territory member bodies and has been through all the breeding regulations and is now officially recognised as a breeder. With most of our state and territory bodies, you've got to have been a member of the organisation for at least 6 months, and in most states you have to take an examination which is about breeding and all the things that are associated with whelping puppies and that sort of thing. All our state and territory member bodies are quite insistent before we let you breed, you've got to be part of the organisation and you've got to have done examinations. Each state and territory has its own regulations, but there were things about the Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act, the Animal Welfare Act, and each state has its own breeder codes. Pedigree, it's really a genetic record of a family history. It's like a family tree. It gives people buying a puppy the surety of knowing how far back they can trace the generations. You know, it's got the parents, the grandparents, and some dogs, in some breeds, you can trace the pedigree back over 100 years. Pretty important because as you breed on through generations, obviously breeders are trying to improve the health and the standards and the well-being of the dog. And if you've got a record of the parents and grandparents, you know what their health status was, and you know what sort of puppies they're through. If you just buy a puppy from a breeder who maybe been doing it for a couple of years, you've got no guarantee of the health status, what hereditary diseases are coming through the breed. So that's really why the pedigree is a guideline to all these things. ORCID is the officially registered Inherited Canine Health Diseases database. The purpose of the website is so that professionals, diagnostic veterinarians, can actually send results of examinations of dogs direct to this database. Things like hip and elbow scores and eye conditions. Some breeds have back problems and you can register the state of back. So all this information is put into this database which can be accessed by people just to see the state. So it gives Dogs Australia an idea of the state of breeding in all our breeds. And the statistics yearly, it can show with hip dysplasia whether the average is coming down. So it's a really good source of information. The breed standards are pretty important because they're the blueprint that breeders strive to maintain so that the dogs look all the same through the generations. It's not really about how the dog looks. Most breeds in the beginning were bred for a purpose, apart from toy breeds which were companion dogs. So the old-time breeders set a standard that it will be sound. They want to know the way it moves, the way it looks, its construction. So if they breed to the standard, then all the ingredients in that standard to give a good healthy dog. In Australia we've got our own breed standards which we own the copyright to. We can change them, but it's very rarely. The only time really when we'd consider a change is something suddenly popped up health-wise that by changing the standard it would address that. But most breed standards have been along for so many years that most of the wrinkles have been ironed out. People may have heard that Norway has banned the breeding of British Bulldogs and Cavalier King Charles Spaniels. Really, that's not the fact. They were banned by a judge in the lower court in Oslo, the district court. Now he did say that he appreciated that breeders were adopting correct practices, but in his opinion there was not one sound British Bulldog or Cavalier King Charles Spaniel in Norway. This has been appealed at the moment, but it wasn't really a big ban by the Norwegian government. It was just one judge in the lower court in Oslo. We're pretty good in Australia because we've already got schemes, health schemes and testing that look into the problems that can be found in British Bulldogs and Cavaliers and other short-faced, or they call them brachycephalic breeds. But we think in Australia we've got the situation pretty well under control. Certainly no thought of banning these breeds in Australia. This has been a big thing with Dogs Australia. We're launching shortly to our public side to appeal to the mums and dads who want to buy a dog, because so often they go and buy a dog and they're really going in the dark, not knowing what to do. So we've got what we call the 3 R's. The right time, the right breed, and the right breeder. Now the right time is, you've got to think, is the dog going to be left on his own when I go to work? And right breed, well obviously it's no good if you live in a very small yard to get a Great Dane. So you've got to find the right breed. We've set up a system whereby people can enter questions on our website and it will give them a range of breeds that might be suitable for them. They can go along and look at them and talk to breeders. The right breeder, well obviously we hope it's a Dogs Australia breeder, because these days there's so many scams going on, so you've got to do your homework before you go and make sure it is the right breeder from an organisation like Dogs Australia. Well, you know, when you go to see a breeder, very early in the conversation you ask them if they health test. Now if they prevaricate and say, oh, it's not important, walk away. A genuine breeder will be quite willing to discuss with you what health problems may arise in that breed and what breeding precautions they've taken over the years to try and eliminate it from their breed. So it really gives it away without you digging too deeply. You can tell by the first reaction from when you've asked the question.